Friend, pull up a chair and let me tell you about something that happened right here in our county last spring. You might have heard pieces of it at the diner or caught something on the evening news, but nobody got the whole story right. This isn't one of those tales where everybody ends up singing hymns and holding hands, though there was some of that. It's about an old fool named Walter Morrison who thought his useful days were behind him, sitting in a house that still smelled like his late wife's lavender sachets. Some folks say what he did was crazy. Others say it was necessary. Me, I say when the good Lord puts something broken in your path, you either step over it or you stop to help. Walter stopped, and that made all the difference. What happened next? Well, nobody could have seen coming. Walter Morrison's Timex showed 5:47 a.m. when his flashlight beam caught something that made his coffee-worn stomach tighten. White fur against the collapsed fence section. Not a coyote, not a dog, something that had no business being in Arizona. The white lioness lay on her side, ribs working like a bellows in Peterson's blacksmith shop used to, back when the town still had a blacksmith. The dampness beneath her told him what his tired eyes took a moment longer to understand. His Motorola radio, the kind the sheriff's office used since the Reagan years, crackled against his hip. "Morrison, you there? State boys are coming up Highway 60, 2 minutes out." Walter looked at the lioness. Her eye, golden as his mother's wedding ring, rolled toward him, the pupil wide as a penny cent. That look, Lord help him, he'd seen it before, in a field hospital outside Da Nang. In room 237 at County General, where Helen spent her last 6 weeks, he unclipped the radio and set it down gentle-like on a flat rock. "Not today," he said to the morning air. The lioness tried to lift her head when he got close. Her lips pulled back, but sweet Jesus, where her teeth should have been, he saw only scarred gums. Someone had yanked them out, every last one, filed down what couldn't be pulled. His knees complained something fierce as he knelt in the dirt. 68 years of living didn't make genuflecting any easier. Another contraction rolled across her swollen belly. Her paw scraped at the earth, and that's when he saw they'd taken her claws too. Nothing left but soft pink pads like a house cat. "Easy there, Mama, easy now." This was birth and death dancing together, and Walter knew the steps. Learned them in Vietnam when he was too young to buy beer. Watched them again in the cancer ward, where Helen grew smaller each day until there was nothing left to hold on to except her hand. The sound of truck engines grew louder. 3, maybe 4 vehicles. The state boys would have their rifles, their protocols, their reasons. The lioness made a sound that raised the hair on his arms. Not a roar. She couldn't roar proper without teeth. Not a growl, neither. It was the sound Helen made near the end, when the morphine wasn't enough. But she didn't want to worry him. Morrison, Walter Morrison. That was Carl Dutton through a megaphone. Young fella, maybe 35, probably had a manual for everything, including how to tie his shoes. Walter didn't move, couldn't move, because now he saw what the darkness had hidden. The tattoo inside her ear, SW47, Safari World. That roadside zoo over in Wickenburg that went belly up when the owner got hauled off for tax evasion. The lioness was trying to go home to a place that didn't exist anymore. "Mr. Morrison, sir, you need to step away from that animal." Walter almost laughed. "Dangerous. This broken creature who couldn't hunt a field mouse, couldn't defend herself from a house cat, couldn't even climb a tree, about as dangerous as the stuffed animals in the church nursery. Flashlight beams swept across them like searchlights at the state prison. He heard rifle bolts working. The lioness heard it too. Her breathing went quick and shallow. "She's having babies," Walter called out, not bothering to turn around. Silence, then boots on gravel. Dutton approaching with his Winchester lowered but ready. "Good Lord," Dutton breathed when he got close enough to see proper. "She's been declawed." Teeth pulled. She's somebody's pet. Carl, somebody's broken toy they threw out with the trash. Dutton was a decent young man, Walter knew, sang in the Baptist choir with his wife. But he had his procedures. Sir, the directive is clear. Any escaped exotic predator within 5 miles of town, she's having babies. Walter kept his voice steady as his old drill sergeant's. You want to shoot a mother giving birth, that what you're telling me? The lioness groaned again. Contractions coming faster now, maybe 2 minutes apart. I'll call it in, Dutton said finally. Get permission for a delay. But Mr. Morrison, I know. If she attacks me with her gums, you'll say you warned me. That's when Walter heard it. Tom Brennan's diesel Ford, same truck he'd driven since Bush Sr. was president. The engine knocked like it was fixing to throw a rod, but Tom was too stubborn to trade it in. Brennan climbed out slow, his tall frame backlit by headlights. The rancher who'd lost a heifer last Tuesday, the one who'd stood up at the town meeting demanding action. Tom, Walter said. Walter? Brennan looked at the lioness, then at Dutton, then back at Walter. Helen know you're out here playing midwife. The mention of his wife hit like cold water in January. Helen's got no say anymore, Walter said quietly. Brennan studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to Dutton. How about you boys back up some? Let Walter see what he can do. Sir, I can't. You can and you will. Brennan's voice carried the authority of a man who'd been running cattle since before Dutton was born. That's a mother in distress. Where I come from, we help mothers, not shoot them. Right then, the lioness's water broke with a gush that soaked through Walter's Wranglers. The first cub was coming, but Lord have mercy. He could see a tiny paw where the head should be. Breech, just like his grandson had been, though Sarah never did let him forget he wasn't there for the birth. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. The cub's paw hung there, pink as a newborn's thumb. Walter's hands remembered things his mind had tried to forget, pressing on a chest wound while choppers circled overhead, holding Helen's wrist to count pulse beats that came too slow. Where's Doc Chen? Walter called. Dutton's radio squawked. The vet! He's coming! 10 minutes! 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, that cub would be dead. In 5, maybe less. Walter's throat felt like he'd swallowed sand. Behind the equipment shed, that's where Helen kept her medical supplies, the things Medicare wouldn't take back. The oxygen tank with the gauge showing half full, the rubber bulb she'd needed when her throat wouldn't clear right. Brennan. Walter didn't look up from the lioness. Shed, corner, by the window, green canvas bag. Brennan's boots crunched away across the gravel. The lioness's belly went rigid. Another contraction. The paw pushed out another inch. Walter could see the tiny pads, soft as pencil erasers. No. Stay with me, Mama. He pressed 2 fingers behind her jaw where the big artery ran. The pulse hammered against his fingertips. Too fast, like a sparrow's heart. Same rhythm he'd felt through his stethoscope in the medical tent at Chulai. Same rhythm in Helen's neck those last 3 days when her body was giving up, but her stubbornness wasn't. The morning air carried the smell of creosote bushes and something else. That copper smell that meant blood was coming. The lioness needed shelter. If the cubs lived, and that was a big if, they'd need to stay warm. Desert mornings in March could still drop near freezing. Mr. Morrison. Deputy Hayes stood beside him. When had Marla Hayes arrived? Her uniform was pressed sharp, even at this ungodly hour. She held out a stack of towels from somebody's truck. Found these. Walter took them. You got kids. Deputy, 2 boys, 8 and 10. Ever deliver them in a field? St. Joseph's Hospital, Both times. She knelt beside him, her service belt creaking. But I watched our mare foal when I was 16. That count, it'll have to. The lioness groaned. Not a human sound anymore, something older, deeper. The same sound Helen made the day the morphine pump broke and they had to wait 4 hours for the technician. Hayes sucked in a breath. Those scars. Walter saw them now in the growing light. Deep grooves around the lioness's neck, where something had rubbed raw for years. A chain, most likely. This creature had never known what it was to run free, never hunted anything that wasn't thrown to her already dead. Here! Brennan dropped the medical bag beside Walter. His face was flushed from hurrying. Doc says, "You're 7 kinds of fool." But he's coming, anyway. Walter pulled on the latex gloves from the bag. They smelled like the hospital supply closet, like the antiseptic they used to mop Helen's room twice a day. His fingers fumbled with the second glove. The cub's paw was cold, too cold. Walter's fingers found the cub's shoulder through the birth canal, slick with fluid, warm as dishwater. He traced down to where the foreleg bent wrong, like a chicken wing folded backward. The lioness's muscles clamped down on his wrist hard enough to leave bruises. "Easy, Mama, easy does it." The contraction let go. He had maybe 30 seconds before the next one. His other hand found the cub's chest. Nothing. No heartbeat. But Walter had seen plenty of things that looked dead come back. Tommy Rodriguez in 71 blew as a bruise until the medic got him breathing. Helen's brother's boy, born with the cord wrapped twice around his neck, quiet as church, until the nurse slapped life into him. Doc Chen's feed store truck rattled up, the muffler dragging like always. Chen climbed out slow, moving like his joints had been dipped in concrete. The arthritis had ended his practice 2 years back, right after the state board pulled his papers for treating animals whose owners couldn't pay. "What have we got?" Chen's voice still had that cigarette rasp from his Navy days. "Breach? No heartbeat." Chen's hands probed beside Walter's, knuckles swollen as walnuts, but still knowing. Heads flexed back. "Gotta straighten it or we'll lose them both." The lioness's eye tracked to Chen. Even without teeth, her lip twitched up. Old instincts. "She's scared," Hayes said. "She's dying," Chen corrected. He pulled a syringe from his bag, the kind with a needle long as Walter's thumb. "Oxytocin. Might help. Might kill her faster. Your call." "Do it." Chen pushed the needle into the lioness's haunch. She didn't even flinch. Too far gone for that. Walter felt the next contraction building under his palm, the muscles gathering like storm clouds. "When she pushes, I need you to push the head forward." "Can't." Chen held up his hands. The fingers wouldn't close right, stayed curled like claws. "Not anymore." The contraction hit. Walter pushed against the cub's skull while pulling the trapped leg. Something gave way with a wet sound. The cub slid 3 inches, then stuck again. "Second leg's caught," Chen said. "Behind the pelvic bone." Walter's shoulder burned from the angle. Sweat ran into his eyes, stinging like the salt water they used to irrigate wounds. The latex gloves were slippery with blood and birth fluid. He could smell copper and something else. Infection starting. The lioness had been in labor too long already. "Brennan," Walter said, "need your hands?" The rancher squatted beside them. Those hands had pulled 100 calves, maybe more. "Tell me what to do." "When I say, pull gentle like pulling a calf, but smaller, more delicate. Done this plenty. This isn't a calf. I got eyes." "Walter." The lioness's breathing changed, short gasps with too much space between them, the kind of breathing that meant the body was deciding whether to keep going or give up. "Losing her," Chen said, fingers on her neck, feeling for pulse. Walter found the second leg, twisted behind the first like someone had braided them together. He worked it free, one tiny movement at a time. His forearm cramped. He ignored it. Now, Tom. Brennan pulled. Walter guided. The cub came free in a rush of fluid and blood that soaked through Walter's jeans. Not breathing, gray-blue under the white fur, limp as a dish rag, Walter grabbed the rubber bulb from Helen's bag, cleared the mouth. Nothing. Cleared the nose. Still nothing. Chen listened with his stethoscope, the old steel kind that had been his father's. Shook his head. Walter laid the cub on a towel and started compressions with 2 fingers. The tiny ribs bent under the pressure. Press, 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 breath, press, 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 breath. The rhythm came back like riding a bicycle, like he'd done on a 6-year-old girl in Da Nang after a mortar attack, like he'd wanted to do for Helen but couldn't because the papers were signed and witnessed and the nurse stood there making sure. Mr. Morrison. Dutton started. Not now. Press, 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 breath. 1 minute. 2. The lioness made a sound, low, mournful. She could smell death on her baby. Even with her ruined mouth, she was trying to call to it. 3 minutes. Walter's fingers found the rhythm. His back screamed. Sweat dripped onto the cub's still form. Walter, Brennan's voice came soft. It's gone. No. 4 minutes. The towel under the cub was soaked through. The sun was coming up over the mountains, painting everything gold and pink like the inside of a seashell. Then a twitch. So small, Walter thought he'd imagined it. The cub gasped. Once, then again. I'll be damned to, Dutton whispered. Walter wrapped the cub in a clean towel, rubbing hard to get the circulation going. Pink started showing through the white fur. The cub mewed, weak as a newborn kitten, but alive. He set it against the lioness's belly. She was too weak to clean it, but her eye followed the small form. Her breathing steadied some. There's another one, Chen said, hand on her belly. Position feels normal this time. The second cub came easier. 20 minutes of pushing that felt like 20 hours. Walter caught it as it came out, cleared its airways. This one breathed right away, squirming in his hands like it was angry at the world. 2 cubs, both alive, for now. The lioness's head dropped to the dirt. Her sides heaved twice, then went still. No. Walter pressed his ear to her chest. Heartbeat there, but wrong. Too fast, then nothing, then 3 beats together. Chen checked her gums, white as paper. She's bleeding inside, hemorrhaging. Fix it. Can't. Need surgery. Real equipment. A real vet. Chen's voice cracked. I'm sorry. The cubs mewed against their mother's belly, blind, helpless, searching for milk that might never come. Walter stood. His knees popped like firecrackers. His back seized up. 68 years old, and every year was telling him to sit down. She dies, they die, he said to nobody in particular. Dutton shifted his rifle. Mr. Morrison, we need to follow protocol here. The cubs are 3 minutes old. They're still exotic predators. State law says state law can go to... Walter stopped himself. Helen never did like him cussing. Hayes stepped between them. Carl, how about we call this in first? Get some guidance from the brass. While Dutton reached for his radio, Walter looked at the lioness, still breathing, but barely. The cubs were rooting against her, looking for comfort she couldn't give. He'd made plenty of decisions in his life, some good, some bad, most somewhere in between. But standing there in the morning light, watching life and death arm wrestle over these creatures, Walter made one more. Tom, I need your truck. Brennan's eyes narrowed. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Helen kept goat's milk in the freezer for her bottle babies. Still there? And the equipment shed's got heat lamps from when we raised chicks. You're talking about I'm talking about keeping them alive until we figure out what's right. Chen looked at the lioness. Blood was pooling under her now. She might make it if we stop the bleeding, if we get fluids in her. Lot of ifs. Always are. Dutton lowered his radio. State says secure the scene. Disposal team coming? Disposal. Walter repeated the word. It tasted bitter, like the pills Helen had to take that made her sick but might make her better. They didn't. The lioness's eye opened, focused on Walter. He'd seen that look before, in a rice paddy, in a hospital room, the look that asked for something words couldn't say. Hayes? Walter said. You got kids. You understand. Sometimes the law and what's right aren't the same thing. She looked at the cubs, one white, one golden, both smaller than Walter's work boots. My patrol car's blocking the access road, she said slowly. Radio's acting up again. Might take me 20 minutes to get it moved. Dutton stared at her. Deputy Hayes. You heard me. Carl, radio problems. Happens all the time out here. She looked at Walter. 20 minutes. That's all I can give you. Walter was already moving. He scooped up both cubs, their bodies hot against his chest through the thin towel. They weighed nothing. Helen's baby goats had been heavier. Chen, keep her alive, whatever it takes. Where are you going? Dutton demanded. To do what Helen would have done. Walter climbed into Brennan's truck, the cubs mewing against his chest. Tom, you coming or not? Brennan looked at Dutton, at the dying lioness, at Walter holding two cubs, like they were premature grandchildren he'd never gotten to hold. Helen was a good woman, Brennan said finally. Taught my Amy to read when the school gave up on her. He climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine knocked and complained. As they pulled away, Walter saw Chen kneeling beside the lioness, working with the focused intensity of someone who'd remembered why he became a vet in the first place. Hayes stood with her back to Dutton, talking loud into her dead radio about problems that didn't exist. The cub squirmed against Walter's chest. It's hungry, truly, in the side mirror. Walter saw Dutton raising his rifle, aiming at the lioness. The rifle crack echoed off the hills like thunder. Walter's hands tightened on the cubs. The truck's wheels spun in the sand as Brennan pressed the gas. Warning shot, Walter said, though his gut knew better. You believe that? Have to. The cub's claws, tiny as rose thorns, caught in Walter's flannel shirt. The white one weighed less than a sack of flour. The golden one kept opening its mouth, searching for something that wasn't there. Brennan's truck hit pavement. The engine knocked harder, needing oil like always. Tom never did maintain anything proper except his cattle. Your place or mine? Brennan asked. Mine. Got supplies. Got law enforcement, too, most likely. Let them come. The two-lane road stretched empty. Too early for the church crowd. Too late for the bar crowd. Just the way Walter liked it. The golden cub made a sound like a rusty hinge. They need milk, Walter said. They need their mother. Well, they don't have her. Brennan's jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter. My sister Amy. Well, what about her? Cincinnati, 2011. She was visiting her husband's family. Took her kids to see somebody's horses. Brennan's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. Rich fellow had a tiger, kept it in a barn, said it was tame as a house cat. The white cub shivered against Walter's chest. He pulled his shirt over both of them, making a tent of warmth. Kids were 4 and 6, Brennan continued, standing by the fence, feeding carrots to the horses. Tiger got loose. Nobody knows how. Walter's house appeared ahead. Single story, paint peeling where the sun hit hardest. Helen's garden had gone to seed. Sunflower stalks bent like old men leaning on canes. Amy got between them, Brennan said. Between the Tigger and her babies. That's what the witnesses said. His voice went flat. Took her head clean off. One swipe, no vehicles at the house. Yet, kids saw everything. The boy, little Tom, hasn't spoke a word since. The girl wakes up screaming every night, 4 years running. Brennan pulled around back. Walter climbed out, careful-like, keeping the cubs steady. They'd stopped crying. That worried him more than the crying had. The equipment shed door stuck like always. Walter kicked it. Inside, dust motes swirled in the light, leaking through dirty windows. The heat lamp hung where he'd left it 3 years ago, the day Helen said she was too tired for baby goats anymore. Walter laid the cubs on Helen's old nursing table, plugged in the lamp. Orange glow spread across their small forms. Not enough heat. Desert mornings in March could kill just as sure as bullets. The house key was under the third rock from the porch steps. Same place for 30 years. Some habits didn't need changing. The kitchen smelled like old coffee, and the lavender sachets Helen hung in every window. He'd meant to take them down. Never did. Freezer door squealed open. 3 bottles of goat milk, dated in Helen's handwriting, March 21. 2 months before she found the lump. Before the tests, before everything went to hell in a handbasket, Walter ran hot water over 1 bottle. The cubs needed it body temperature. Too cold would shut down their digestion. Too hot would burn their throats. Helen had taught him that, with the goat kids, the white cub first. Walter tested the milk on his wrist. Still cold. More hot water. The minutes stretched like taffy. Brennan stood in the doorway. Company coming. Through the window, Walter saw dust rising. 2 vehicles, maybe 3. There's a 30-30 in the hall closet, Walter said. Don't be a fool. Then help me feed them. Brennan's boots stayed planted. After Amy died, I wanted to kill every big cat in America, every lion, tiger, leopard. Didn't matter if they'd done anything wrong, just wanted them gone. The milk was warm enough. Walter found Helen's nursing bottles in the cupboard above the stove. The red rubber nipples still soft, still smelling like dish soap. Still feel that way? Walter asked. Some days. Brennan took the second bottle, but Amy would have hated that. She loved animals, all of them, even the one that killed her. The white cub wouldn't take the nipple, its head lolled to the side. Walter worked the rubber between its lips, squeezed a drop of milk onto its tongue. The cub's mouth worked once, twice. Then nothing. Car doors slamming outside. Boots on gravel. Mr. Morrison? Dutton's voice. I know you're in there. Doors open, Walter called. Dutton appeared in the shed doorway. Deputy Hayes behind him. Chen, too. His shirt covered in blood that wasn't his. She alive? Walter asked. Chen nodded. Barely. Packed the bleeding, got fluids going, but she needs surgery. Where is she? Brennan's horse trailer, parked behind the old Safari World office. Dutton stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, you're in violation of how many regulations lost count. Walter kept his eyes on the white cub. Its belly should have been round by now. Instead, it looked hollow. Skin loose over tiny ribs. The golden cub in Brennan's hands was doing better, sucking hard. Tiny paws needing air. Just need to burp it, Walter said. Like a baby. Mr. Morrison, Dutton tried again. These animals have names yet. Walter looked up. The white one's Grace, after her mother. The golden one's Hope. You can't name them. Just did. Dutton's radio crackled. Unit 7, what's your status? He stepped outside to answer. Chen pulled out a penlight, checked Grace's eyes. Pupils responsive. Temperature feels normal. He moved to Hope. This one's stronger. Mr. Morrison, Hayes said quietly. Carl's buying time, but State's sending a team. They'll be here within the hour. To do what? Take the cubs. Put down the mother if she's suffering. Walter stood, Grace in one arm, Hope in the other. They're 3 hours old. I know. Their mother's dying because someone threw her away like garbage. I know that, too. Hayes's radio crackled a different voice. Older, authoritative. Deputy Hayes, what's your 20? She looked at Walter, then at the cubs. Radio's still acting up, sir. Breaking up bad. Hayes, I know you can hear me. Secure those animals. She turned the volume down. Mr. Morrison, there's something you should know. The Safari World owner, Marcus Webb, he's out of federal prison, early release, compassionate grounds. Meaning he's dying, cancer, and he's filed papers claiming those cubs belong to him? Walter felt Grace stir against his chest, tiny movement. But movement? He's the one who had her teeth pulled. Different owner. Webb sold the park 5 years ago. New owners did the modifications. Chen was examining Grace, listening to her heart with his old stethoscope. She needs colostrum. First milk has antibodies. Without it. The mother's milk, Walter said. If she's still producing, if she's still alive. Through the window, Walter saw more vehicles arriving, not police, black SUVs with tinted windows. That's not state wildlife, Brennan said. Hayes looked out. Her hand moved to her service weapon. No, that's not state. A man stepped out of the lead SUV. Expensive suit, despite the morning heat. Briefcase in one hand, papers in the other. Mr. Morrison, the man called out, I represent Marcus Webb. We need to discuss the return of his property. Walter looked down at the cubs. Grace's eye had opened, yellow, like her mother's, looking right at him, trusting him. The man walked closer to the shed. Those cubs are worth $250,000 each. My client has buyers waiting. Behind him, someone else emerged from the SUV, someone holding what looked like a rifle. Tom, Walter said quietly, that 30-30 I mentioned. Already thinking the same thing, Brennan replied, not taking his eyes off the window. The man with the rifle was young, maybe 25. Same age Walter had been in Da Nang. His hands were shaking. The lawyer's cologne hit Walter's nose before the man got within 10 feet. Something expensive that belonged in a Phoenix boardroom, not a dusty equipment shed. The young fellow with the rifle stayed by the SUV, weapon pointed at the ground, but fingers dancing near the trigger guard. Mr. Webb is prepared to be generous, the lawyer said. His teeth were too white, like those actors on the TV commercials Helen used to mute. 50,000 cash for your trouble. Walter shifted Grace to his left arm. She weighed less than the family Bible on Helen's nightstand. They're not for sale. Everything's for sale, Mr. Morrison. Just a matter of price. You deaf? Son, I said no. The lawyer opened his briefcase. Stacks of hundreds wrapped in bank bands. This could pay off your mortgage. Fix this place up, maybe take a vacation. Don't need a vacation, just need baby formula and heat lamps. And Hayes stepped between them. Sir, these animals are evidence in an ongoing investigation. What investigation? Animal cruelty, abandonment, maybe attempted murder if that mother dies. The lawyer's smile stayed put, but his eyes went hard. My client has ownership papers, legal, notarized. From 5 years ago, Hayes said, before he sold Safari World. The sale was never completed. Fraud on the buyer's part makes the transaction void. Walter felt hope squirming in his right arm. Hungry again already. The bottles were empty. He'd need more milk. The frozen stuff would run out by evening. Jen, Walter said, take hope. The old vet cradled the golden cub like he'd done it 1,000 times. Maybe he had, back when his hands still worked right and the state still let him practice. Walter walked past the lawyer, out into the morning sun. The young fellow with the rifle tensed up. Kid looked like he might wet himself. Easy there, soldier, Walter said. Just getting supplies. He went to Brennan's truck, pulled out the medical bag. Inside, more syringes, gauze. The old blood pressure cuff Helen had used to check his pressure every Sunday after church. Under it all, a can of evaporated milk. Expired 2 years ago, but it would have to do. Mr. Morrison, the lawyer had followed him out. Let's be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm not shooting you for trespassing. That's reasonable. The kid with the rifle raised it slightly, not quite pointing at Walter, but close enough. Bobby, put that down, the lawyer snapped. We're here to negotiate, not threatened. But Bobby's hands kept shaking. The rifle barrel wandered in small circles. Walter had seen that shake before. Young kids in Vietnam, first time under fire. The ones who might shoot their own foot off or might shoot anything that moved. No telling which, until it happened. Son, Walter said to Bobby, you ever held a gun before today? Yes, sir. The kid's voice cracked like he was 14, not 25. Hunting. Target shooting. With my dad. Paper targets don't shoot back, do they? No, sir. These cubs don't shoot back either. They don't even have teeth yet. The rifle lowered a bit. The lawyer's phone rang. He answered, face changing as he listened. Yes, sir. I understand. No, sir. He hung up. Mr. Webb wants to come himself. Then bring him, Walter said. Let him see what his money bought. The lawyer made another call. Walter walked back to the shed. Grace was barely breathing. Quick, shallow pants that meant her body was giving up. She needs the mother's milk, Chen said. Now. Then we go get it. The mother's across town. So we go across town. Dutton stepped forward. You can't transport exotic animals without permits. Watch me. Walter grabbed 2 towels from the shelf, wrapped both cubs tight. They needed the warmth, needed to feel held. Helen had taught him that with the goat kids, sometimes touch mattered more than food. A car pulled up fast, gravel spinning. Not another SUV, a old Buick, powder blue, with a Support Our Troops sticker faded on the bumper. Sarah? Walter's daughter climbed out, 8 months pregnant, moving like her back hurt. She'd driven from Phoenix, must have left at 3 in the morning when she heard the news. Dad, Sarah, you shouldn't be here. Neither should you. She looked at the cubs in his arms. Are those Grace and Hope? Sarah's face did something complicated. She'd lost a baby last year. 15 weeks along. Never told Walter until after. When it was too late to help or hold her or do anything except send flowers to a Boston address he'd never visited. Can I? She reached out. Walter passed her Hope. Sarah held the cub against her swollen belly. And for a moment, Walter saw Helen 35 years ago, pregnant with Sarah, holding an injured rabbit she'd found in the garden. She's so small, Sarah whispered. Getting smaller. They need their mother's milk. Then we go get it. Sarah's voice had that edge Walter remembered from when she was 16 and decided she was going to Harvard no matter what anybody said. She did too. It's not that simple, Dutton said. Sure it is. Sarah pulled out her phone, started recording. This is Sarah Morrison Blake, attorney with Fuller, Morrison, and Associates. I'm documenting the illegal removal of protected animals from their mother. They're not protected. They are now. Sarah kept recording. I'm filing an emergency injunction. Judge Harriet Cole, 3rd District. She's my godmother, by the way. Answers her phone on Sundays for family. The lawyer stepped back. You can't. I can. I am. I did. Sarah's phone was already dialing. Aunt Harriet, it's Sarah. Yes, I know it's early. I need a favor. While Sarah talked legal words Walter didn't follow, another car arrived, old Cadillac, black paint gone gray with sun damage. The door opened slow. Marcus Webb. Walter recognized him from the newspaper photos during the trial. But this version was eaten down to nothing. Cheeks hollow, skin hanging loose, oxygen tank trailing behind him like a reluctant dog. Webb saw the cubs and stopped. His hand found the car door for support. "White," he said. "She had white cubs." Nobody answered. Webb shuffled closer. Each step looked like work. "My Amy loved white lions. Said they looked like angels." The oxygen tube had slipped from his nose. He didn't fix it. "Amy died when she was 12. Leukemia. The lions were the only thing that made her smile near the end." Webb reached out toward Grace. Stopped. "May I?" Walter hesitated. This man had owned Safari World, had started the whole mess. But he'd also lost a daughter. Walter passed Grace over. Webb held her like spun glass, afraid she might shatter. "I bought the pregnant female 3 weeks ago," Webb said. "When I heard Safari World was closing, spent everything I had left, was going to bring her to my place in Sedona, let her have the cubs there, raise them right." "With their teeth pulled?" Brennan asked. "No." Webb's voice went hard. "That was the new owners. I sold Safari World to pay for Amy's treatment. They promised to take care of the animals. They lied." Grace opened her eyes, looked at Webb. He started crying, silent tears running into the deep lines on his face. "I'm dying," he said. "Pancreas. 3 weeks, maybe 4. I wanted to do one thing right before I go." "Then sign them over," Walter said. "Let us help them." Webb looked at the lawyer. "Draw up the papers." "Sir, the buyers can go to hell." Webb passed Grace back to Walter. "Draw up the papers. Now." The lawyer pulled out documents, started writing. Webb signed with a shaking hand. "There's more," Webb said. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "Security footage. The new owners dumping the pregnant female in the desert, laughing about it." Hayes took the drive. "This is evidence. Evidence of attempted murder," Webb said. "They wanted her to die. Cheaper than euthanasia." Walter felt something shift in his chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding maybe. "We need to get to the mother," Chen said. "She won't last much longer." "I'll drive," Sarah said. "You're 8 months pregnant, and you're 68 with a bad back. I'll drive." They loaded into Sarah's SUV. Walter with both cubs, Chen with his medical bag, Brennan riding shotgun. Hayes followed in her patrol car. Dutton stayed behind to watch Webb and the lawyer. The Safari World parking lot was empty except for Brennan's horse trailer. They could hear the Lioness before they saw her. Low moans that sounded too human. Chen went in first. "She's conscious. Barely." Walter climbed into the trailer with both cubs. The smell hit him. Blood, infection, death, circling. The Lioness lay on bloody straw, her eye tracked to the cubs, focused. "She knows them," Chen said. Walter laid Grace against her mother's belly. The cub found a nipple, latched on weak, hope stronger, pushed in beside her sister. The Lioness tried to lift her head, couldn't, but her body responded to the cub's nursing. Walter could see her relax slightly, some ancient instinct overriding the pain. "How long?" Walter asked. "Without surgery hours, maybe less." "Can you do it?" Chen held up his ruined hands. "Not anymore." "What about Doc Pritchard?" "Retired 5 years ago, moved to Tucson, the vet college in Tempe. 2 hours away. She won't make 2 hours." Sarah was on her phone again. "I'm calling every vet in the state." The cubs were nursing now, their bellies starting to round out. The Lioness watched them, her breathing getting shallower. "We're losing her," Chen said. Walter put his hand on the Lioness's head. The fur was rough, matted with dirt and blood. "Hold on, Mama. Just a little longer." The Lioness blinked once, slow, like Helen used to when the morphine was working and she could rest a bit. That's when they heard it. Helicopter blades, getting closer. Sarah looked out the trailer. Channel 12 News. The helicopter circled low, camera operator hanging out the side. They're filming everything, Sarah said. Walter didn't care about cameras. The white cub had stopped nursing. Her head drooped. Grace. He picked her up. She was limp, not breathing. Chen grabbed her, started chest compressions with 2 fingers, tiny puffs of air into her nostrils. The lioness made a sound, not quite a roar. She couldn't roar without teeth. But something primal, desperate. Grace gasped. Once, twice, started up breathing. The helicopter circled again, lower. The wind from the rotors sent dust and straw swirling. Sarah's phone rang. She answered, listened, her face changing. Dad, she said, there are more cubs. Another lioness, 3 of them, found near Payson. Walter looked at the dying lioness, at Grace and Hope barely holding on, at Chen with his ruined hands trying to save them all. How many more? He asked. Sarah looked at her phone. They're finding them all over, dumped when Safari World closed. Dozens, maybe. The lioness's eye found Walter's. In it, he saw not just this mother, but all of them, all the abandoned, the broken, the thrown away. God help us, Walter said. The lioness blinked once more. Then her eye stayed open, unfocused. She was gone. The lioness's eyes stayed open, staring at nothing. Walter pressed 2 fingers against her neck. Nothing. The cubs kept nursing from a body that couldn't feel them anymore. We need to move them, Chen said. The milk won't stay warm long. Walter pulled Grace away from the nipple. She cried out, high and thin. Hope fought harder, tiny claws scratching at his hands. Their bellies were round now, full for the first time in their lives. How much time before the milk goes bad? Walter asked. In this heat, 30 minutes, maybe less. Sarah climbed into the trailer, her hand pressed against her lower back. Dad, we've got company. Through the trailer slats, Walter saw them. 3 more black SUVs, different ones, license plates he couldn't read from here. State? Brennan asked. No, these have government plates. Federal. Hayes's radio crackled. All units, be advised. Federal marshals en route to Safari World location. What do the feds want? Brennan asked. Same thing everyone wants. Walter said, control. He wrapped both cubs in his flannel shirt. They curled against each other, Grace's white fur mixing with Hope's gold. The helicopter still circled above, the camera operator getting every angle. A Lincoln town car pulled up, older model, the kind funeral directors drove. The back door opened, and someone Walter didn't expect stepped out. Judge Harriet Cole, Sarah's godmother, 73 years old, walked with a cane since her hip replacement, still wearing her church dress. Sarah Morrison Blake, the judge said, you pulled me out of service for this. Aunt Harriet, I can explain. No need. The judge looked at the dead lioness, then at the cubs in Walter's arms. I've been watching the news. The federal vehicles had stopped 20 yards back, doors opening, men in suits despite the heat, earpieces like Secret Service. Mr. Morrison, one of them called out. I'm Agent Park, Fish and Wildlife. We need to secure those animals. They're secured, Walter said, in my arms. Sir, those are protected species. Protected. Walter almost laughed. Their mother's lying here with her teeth pulled out and her claws ripped off. That's your idea of protection. Park walked closer. Young fellow, maybe 30. Clean-shaved. Shoes shined. Never held anything dying in his life. The Endangered Species Act gives us jurisdiction, Park said. These aren't endangered, Hayes said. They're African lions. White African lions. Fewer than 13 in the wild. Makes them our jurisdiction. Judge Cole tapped her cane on the ground. Agent Park, I've issued a temporary custody order. These cubs stay with Mr. Morrison pending a full hearing. Ma'am, with respect, federal law supersedes. Federal law doesn't supersede a damn thing when animals are dying. The judge's voice could have frozen water. Mr. Morrison, what do these cubs need? Milk, warmth, their mother's milk specifically for the antibodies. Can that be extracted? Chen nodded. From the body, yes, but we need to do it now. Then do it. Park stepped forward. Judge, I have to insist. Insist all you want. I've got a court order. She pulled papers from her purse. Signed and witnessed. These cubs are under state protective custody until further notice. The helicopter dipped lower. Wind from the rotors sent dust swirling. Grace started crying again, the sound barely audible over the noise. We need to get them inside, Walter said. They're too young for this stress. As Sarah was already moving toward her SUV. Dad, get in. Walter climbed in back with the cubs. Chen followed with medical supplies. Brennan stayed with the Lioness's body, standing guard like he was protecting something sacred. Park's voice through the window. This isn't over. Never is, Walter muttered. Sarah drove toward Walter's place, slow and careful over the rutted road. In the rearview mirror, vehicles followed, federal SUVs, news vans, Hayes's patrol car, like a funeral procession, except the dead was left behind, and the living might not make it either. Dad, Sarah said, there's something you need to know. If it's bad news, save it. Not bad, strange. Marcus Webb just signed over his entire estate to a wildlife trust. Named you as executor. I don't want his money. It's not about money. He owns land. 300 acres in Sedona. Already set up for exotic animals, permits and everything. Grace squirmed in Walter's arms. Her breathing was wrong, too fast, then nothing, then gasping. She's crashing, Chen said. He pulled out a small oxygen mask from his bag, sized for cats. It covered Grace's entire face. Sarah, drive faster. Walter's house looked different, with 20 vehicles in the yard. His quiet place, where he and Helen had raised Sarah, where they'd planned to grow old together, was now something else. They got the cubs into the shed. Chen had already drawn milk from the Lioness's body, 2 large syringes full. He warmed it under the hot water from the outside tap. This might be enough for today, he said. Maybe tomorrow, after that. We'll figure it out, Walter said. Grace wouldn't take the syringe. Her mouth hung open, but she wouldn't swallow. Chen tried a feeding tube, thin as fishing line. It went down, but Grace gagged, bringing up the little milk in her stomach. We're losing her, Chen said. Walter held Grace upright, rubbing her chest in small circles. The same motion Helen had taught him for colicky goat kids. The same motion he'd used on Sarah when she was a baby and wouldn't stop crying. Nothing. Grace's breathing stopped, started, stopped longer. No, Walter said. Not this one, too. Sarah grabbed towels, started rubbing Grace vigorously. Come on, little one. Come on. The shed door opened. Park stood there with 2 other agents. Mr. Morrison, I have a federal warrant. Get out. Sir, these animals, get out. Walter's voice broke. He didn't care. Grace convulsed once, then still. Chen checked for heartbeat, shook his head. Walter laid Grace on the table and started compressions again. Tiny chest under his fingers. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. Dad, Sarah said softly. No. 1, 2, 3, breathe. His back screamed. His fingers cramped. Didn't matter. The news camera operator appeared in the doorway, filming everything. Park trying to push him back. More people crowding in. Everyone watching Grace die. 5 minutes. 6. 7. Walter, Brennan said from the doorway. She's gone. Helen lasted 8 days after they said she'd be gone in 2. This cub can last 8 minutes. 8 minutes. 9. Then movement. So small, Walter thought he imagined it. Grace gasped. Her chest rose on its own. Once, twice. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, someone whispered. Walter wrapped Grace in a clean towel, holding her against his chest. She was breathing. Weak, irregular, but breathing. Hope started crying. Chen fed her with the second syringe of mother's milk. She drank greedily, paused, needing air. Mr. Morrison. Park again. Quieter now. We need to talk. So talk. Privately. Walter looked around the shed. 20 people at least. Camera still rolling. Everyone waiting. Nothing private anymore, Walter said. Say what you need to say. Park pulled out his tablet. Photos on the screen. We've found 7 dump sites, 16 lions total, cubs and adults, all from Safari World. Olive. Some, the ones that are, they're in bad shape, like this mother, teeth pulled, claws removed, where scattered across 3 states. The owners, the new owners, they dumped them all when the park went under. Cheaper than euthanasia or proper placement. Walter felt something cold in his chest. 16 lions. That we've found? Could be more. And you want to put them down. That's protocol for abandoned exotics that can't be returned to the wild. They were never wild. They were raised in cages, fed by hand, taught to trust people who then ripped their teeth out. Park set down the tablet. What would you have us do? Before Walter could answer, another car pulled up, beat-up station wagon with wood paneling. The door opened, and an old woman climbed out. Native American, long gray braid, moving like her joints hurt. Janet Yazzie, tribal veterinarian from White Mountain Apache Reservation. Heard you got some cats need help, she said. Ma'am, this is federal jurisdiction. Park started. Good thing the reservation's federal land then. Janet pulled out papers. Tribal Council emergency resolution. We'll take any animals you can't handle. You can't just can and will. We've been rehabbing mountain lions for 20 years. These aren't much different. She looked at the cubs in Walter's arms. Those need colostrum. Real stuff, not goat milk. I've got frozen mountain lion milk at our clinic. Mountain lion, Chen asked. Close enough. Better than formula. How many cubs total? Don't know yet, Park admitted. Then you better find out. Janet looked at Walter. You coming? Where? Reservation. 2 hours east. We've got facilities. Proper ones. Sarah stepped forward. Dad can't just leave. There are legal issues. I'll handle legal, Judge Cole said from the doorway. Walter hadn't seen her come in. Emergency custody transfers to tribal land. Federal government can fight it out with sovereign nation. Could take years. Park's phone rang. He answered, face darkening as he listened. Yes, sir. I understand. No, sir. He hung up. There's been a development. Now what? Walter asked. The media coverage. It's extensive. National, international. The Secretary of the Interior is involved now. The governor's office. They want a solution that doesn't involve dead cubs on the evening news. The helicopter still circled overhead. Through the shed window, Walter could see more news vans arriving. So what are you saying, what? Walter asked. Park looked at the cubs, at the cameras, at the crowd. I'm saying maybe the reservation is the best option, temporarily. Janet smiled. Not much of one. But there, temporarily. Right. Grace stirred in Walter's arms. Her eye opened, focused on his face, that yellow eye, just like her mother's. We need to move now, Janet said. That white one's not stable. The ride might kill her. Or staying here might, Chen said. Walter looked at Sarah, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, but standing strong like her mother used to. "Go, Dad," she said. "I'll handle things here. You need to rest. I need my father to save those cubs." She touched Grace's head gently. "Mom would be so proud of you. Your mother would say I'm a damn fool." That too. Walter stood, cubs in his arms. His back seized up, his knees popped, but he stood. "How many vehicles?" he asked Janet. "3 trucks. One set up as a mobile clinic. Not enough for 16 lions. Then we make multiple trips." "The cubs can't make multiple trips." Janet studied him. "You got a better idea?" Walter looked around the shed, at Brennan, who'd lost his sister to a tiger but stood here anyway, at Hayes, risking her career, at Kit with his ruined hand still trying to help, at Judge Cole with her court orders, at Sarah with new life growing inside her. "We convoy," Walter said. "Everyone who's willing. We load up every truck, every trailer, every SUV. We move them all at once." "That's crazy," Park said. "That's necessary." Brennan spoke up. "I've got 2 horse trailers. Tom Brewster has 3 more. Between us ranchers, we could move a circus." "This is a circus," someone muttered. "No," Walter said. "This is a rescue." Grace coughed, a tiny sound, but Walter felt it through his shirt. She was fading. "We go now," he said, "or we lose her." Janet headed for the door. "Follow me. 2 hours to the reservation. Don't stop for anything." Walter followed, cubs against his chest. Behind him, he heard Park on his phone, arguing with someone, Hayes on her radio, calling for escort, Sarah making more calls, that lawyer voice cutting through objections. Outside, the sun was climbing toward noon. The heat hit like a physical thing. Grace whimpered. Hope stayed quiet, too quiet. As Walter climbed into Janet's truck, he saw Webb standing by his old Cadillac, oxygen tank beside him, face gray as ash. Their eyes met. Webb nodded once. Walter nodded back. Then Webb collapsed, fell straight down like someone had cut his strings. "Medical!" Someone shouted. "We need medical here." Chen ran toward Webb, but Walter could tell from here the man was dead before he hit the ground. Chen knelt beside Webb's body, fingers on the old man's neck. He looked up at Walter and shook his head once. The oxygen tank hissed, feeding air to a dead man. Someone turned it off. The silence after was worse than the sound. Grace shuddered against Walter's chest. Her breathing went ragged 3 quick pants, then nothing, then a gasp, the same pattern Helen had near the end when her lungs filled with fluid. "We go," Janet said. "Now?" Walter climbed into her truck, cradling both cubs. The seat vinyl was cracked, stuffing poking through, smelled like sage and motor oil. Hope mewed once, weak as a newborn kitten. Grace didn't make any sound at all. Through the windshield. Walter watched them cover Webb with a tablecloth from somebody's truck. The man's hand fell out, pale and thin. Someone tucked it back under. "He signed everything over," Walter said. "I know." That Janet started the engine. It knocked twice before catching. "Heard him talking. 300 acres. Already permitted for exotics. Won't do these cubs any good if they don't make it 2 hours." Janet reached behind the seat, pulled out a heating pad that plugged into the cigarette lighter, wrapped them in this. Temperature's as important as food right now. The pad was old, duct tape holding the cord together, but it worked. Walter felt warmth spreading through the thin fabric. Behind them, vehicles lined up, Brennan's horse trailer first, then 3 more pickup trucks with stock trailers, Hayes's patrol car, the federal SUVs, news vans, must have been 20 vehicles total. Sarah appeared at Walter's window. "Dad, I'm following in my car. You need to go home. Rest. I need to see this through." She touched the window where Grace lay against the glass. "For Mom." But before Walter could argue, she was walking back to her rental car, one hand pressed against her lower back, the other holding her belly. Janet pulled out slow. The convoy followed, through the side mirror. Walter saw Agent Park on his phone, pacing beside Webb's covered body. The man's lips moved fast, arguing with someone. They made it to Highway 60 before Grace stopped breathing again. Walter felt it, the absence of movement against his chest. He pulled back the heating pad. Her mouth hung open, tongue out just a bit, pale as paper. "Pull over," he said. "Can't we stop? She dies. She's dying now." Janet reached across, keeping one hand on the wheel, pressed two fingers against Grace's chest. "Still got a heartbeat. Barely. Hold her head up. Open her airway." Walter tilted Grace's tiny head back. Her neck was limp. No muscle control at all. He could see down her throat, pink and too still. "Breathe into her nose," Janet said. "Gentle, like blowing out a candle." Walter bent down, covered Grace's nostrils with his mouth, puffed air in. Her chest rose, fell, didn't rise again on its own. Another breath, another. "Keep going," Janet said. "I've seen cubs come back after 20 minutes. 20 minutes. They'd been driving 5. The reservation was still an hour and 40 minutes away. Hope started crying, probably feeling her sister's stillness. The sound was thin, desperate. Walter wanted to comfort her but couldn't stop breathing for Grace. In the mirror, the convoy stretched back far as he could see. All those vehicles following a truck with dying cubs and an old man who didn't know what the hell he was doing. Puff. Grace's chest rose. Fell. Puff. Rose. Fell. His back cramped from the angle. Ignored it. Puff. Rose. Fell. Janet's radio crackled. "Unit 1, this is Brennan. We've got a problem." She grabbed the handset. "What kind of problem?" "The Lioness in my trailer. The one they found near Payson. She's in labor." Walter kept breathing for Grace, in through his nose, out through his mouth, into her tiny nostrils. "How far along?" Janet asked. "Can see a cub coming, but it's wrong. Backwards, I think. Can you pull over?" "Not here. Construction zone. No shoulder." Walter's vision started to blur. Too much oxygen leaving his system. He pulled back, gasped regular air, went back to Grace. "There's a rest stop in 10 miles. Janet told Brennan. "We'll stop there. Don't think we have 10 miles. Through the back window, Walter could see Brennan's trailer swerving slightly. The Lioness must be thrashing. Puff. Grace's chest rose, fell, still no breathing on her own. "Chen's with you?" Janet asked. "Yeah, but his hands, you know." "I know. Tell him to talk you through it." "Ma'am, I deliver calves, not lions." "Same basic idea. Bigger teeth." "She don't have teeth. They pulled them all." Janet's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "Rest stop. 8 minutes now." Hope squirmed against Walter's stomach, crying harder. Her sister's body was cooling despite the heating pad. Puff, rose, fell. The convoy passed a billboard for Safari World, closed permanently, spray-painted across a picture of a white lion. 7 minutes to the rest stop. Grace convulsed, just once, a tiny shudder that Walter felt more than saw. Then she breathed on her own, shallow, irregular, but real. "That's it," Walter whispered. "That's my girl." 5 minutes to the rest stop. Brennan's voice on the radio. "I can see the cub. It's stuck. The mother's pushing, but nothing's moving." 4 minutes. "Don't pull yet," Janet said. "Wait for the contraction to end. Then gentle pressure. There's blood, lot of blood." 3 minutes. Walter felt Grace's heartbeat against his palm. Still there, but wrong, too fast, then nothing, then 3 beats together like popcorn popping. 2 minutes. "Rest, stop ahead," Janet said. They pulled in fast, gravel spinning. The convoy followed. vehicles parking wherever they fit. Brennan's trailer was in the middle, rocking as the Lioness inside struggled. Janet grabbed her medical bag and ran. Walter followed, carrying both cubs. His knee gave out halfway. He caught himself on someone's truck bumper, kept going. Inside the trailer, blood everywhere. The Lioness, younger than Grace's mother, maybe 3 years old, lay on her side. A cub's hind legs protruded from the birth canal. "Not moving. Been like this for 5 minutes," Brennan said. Chen knelt beside the Lioness, his twisted hands useless for the delicate work needed. "Breech. Need to turn it." "I'll do it," Janet said, pulling on latex gloves. "Wait." Sarah appeared in the trailer doorway, breathing hard from running. "There's something wrong." "Lot of things wrong," Walter said. "No, I mean—" She held up her phone. "The news. They're saying the federal government just filed an injunction. They're claiming the cubs are genetically modified." "What?" Janet's hand paused. "Biogen Corporation, the company that bought Safari World from Webb. They're claiming they own the patent on these lions' DNA." Walter looked at Grace in his arms, still breathing, but barely. "That's impossible," Chen said. "They have documentation, Poet, lab reports. They're saying these aren't regular white lions. They're engineered, and if that's true, they're property," Park said from behind Sarah. He held up his phone, showing a federal court order. "Corporate property. I'm supposed to seize them. All of them." The Lioness screamed. Not a roar. She had no teeth for roaring, just a raw sound of pain and fear. The stuck cub still hadn't moved. "You want to arrest us," Walter said to Park, "while we're trying to save lives. I don't want to do anything, but a federal judge just ordered me to secure these animals for Biogen Corporation, the same corporation that dumped them to die. That's being investigated." The Lioness convulsed. More blood flowed. The cub's legs twitched once, then went still. "We're losing them both," Janet said. "I need to work now." Park stepped closer. "I can't let you—" Brennan stood up, all 6'4" of him. "Son, you're going to step back. We're going to save these animals. Then we'll sort out your paperwork." "Sir, I have federal authority, and I have a dying mother and cub. Which do you think matters more right now?" Hayes appeared, hand on her service weapon, not drawn but ready. "Agent Park, how about we discuss this outside?" "Deputy, you're interfering with federal—" "I'm preventing a situation outside now." As Park backed out, Sarah knelt beside Walter. "Dad, there's more. Biogen sending their own team. Private security. They'll be here in 30 minutes. Walter looked down at Grace, her eye opened halfway, looking at him, trusting him. In the trailer, Janet worked on the stuck cub, while the mother's breathing grew weaker. 30 minutes until corporate mercenaries arrived, 60 miles to the reservation, and Grace's heartbeat under his palm was slowing, getting weaker, stopping. Walter pressed 2 fingers against Grace's neck. Nothing. Then a flutter so weak he might have imagined it. "Janet," he called into the trailer. "I need help here. Busy." Janet's arm was inside the Lioness up to her elbow, blood soaking through her shirt. "The cub's twisted. Can't get it turned." Grace's mouth hung open, no breath misting in the air. Walter started compressions again with 2 fingers. The tiny ribs bent under pressure. Sarah grabbed Hope from his other arm. "Dad, let me. You don't know how. I watched you twice now." She took Grace, laid her on the tailgate of someone's pickup, started compressions. Her pregnant belly got in the way, but she adjusted. Leaning sideways, Walter's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, then did. "Mr. Morrison?" Old voice, female, proper accent, like the church ladies from Helen's quilting circle. "This is Margaret Hendricks. I was Marcus Webb's secretary for 30 years. Ma'am, this isn't a good time. Listen carefully. I'm at Marcus's office. I have documents you need. The real ones. What documents? The purchase agreement. Marcus bought those lions back 3 weeks ago, legal and binding, before Biogen dumped them. Walter looked at Park, arguing with Hayes 20 feet away. Biogen says they own the patents. They own nothing. I have the proof. Original contracts, bank transfers, everything. Where are you? Phoenix. But I can't come to you. I'm 91 years old, Mr. Morrison. I don't drive highways anymore. Inside the trailer, the lioness screamed again. Janet pulled her arm out, covered in blood and fluid. Got it turned, Janet said. But she's too weak to push. Then we pull, Brennan said. Could kill her. She's dying anyway. As Sarah's arm shook as she continued compressions on Grace, 100 compressions per minute. That's what the manual said. She was maybe doing 60, getting tired. Let me, Chen said, taking over despite his ruined hands. His fingers couldn't close right, but he found a way. Using his palms, Walter spoke into the phone. Mrs. Hendricks, can you email the documents? I don't do email. But there's a young man here from Channel 2. He says he can broadcast them, whatever that means. Put him on. Different voice, younger. Mr. Morrison Tyler Brooks, I can stream the documents live. Show everyone what Biogen did. Do it. Already am. Check any news feed. Sarah pulled up her phone with one hand while holding Hope with the other. On screen, documents, contracts, bank statements, and something else. Dad, look at this, lab reports. Not showing genetic modification. Showing the opposite. These lions were pure. No tampering. Biogen had lied about that too, trying to claim ownership of something they'd destroyed inside the trailer. Janet and Brennan pulled together. The cub emerged in a rush of fluid, not breathing, gray-blue under golden fur. Another one coming, Janet said. I can see it. The first cub lay still on bloody straw. Chen passed Grace back to Sarah and started working on the new cub. Compressions with his twisted hands, clearing airways with the bulb syringe. Park's phone rang. He listened, face changing, walked over to Walter. That was my supervisor. He's watching the news. Park put his phone away. The seizure order's been suspended pending investigation. Meaning get these animals to the reservation fast, before someone changes their mind. A sound made everyone turn. The first cub from the trailer gasped. Once, twice. Started breathing on its own. But the mother lioness had gone still. She's hemorrhaging, Janet said. Internal bleeding. Can't stop it here. The second cub came fast, alive, crying immediately. The mother didn't respond to her baby's cries. Her eye stayed open, but unfocused. Load her, Janet ordered. We'll work on her during transport. It took 6 men to lift the lioness into Janet's mobile clinic truck. Blood dripped through the trailer floor slats. The cubs went into a warming box. Crying for milk their mother couldn't give. How many more? Walter asked Park. 3 more females in other trucks. 2 have cubs already. 1's pregnant. All dumped. All mutilated, teeth and claws gone. Walter looked at Grace. Chen had her breathing again, but for how long? We need that milk, he said to Janet. She drew blood-tinged milk from the dying lioness. This is all we'll get. Maybe enough for today. What about tomorrow? 1 crisis at a time. The convoy loaded up. Walter back in Janet's truck with both cubs. Sarah following in her rental. Brennan driving the trailer with the hemorrhaging lioness. Chen riding with her, trying to keep her alive. They made it 5 miles before the helicopter appeared. Not news this time. Black and unmarked. Military style. Company, Janet said. The helicopter passed overhead, circled back, stayed above them. Following, Walter's phone rang. "Sarah? Dad! There are vehicles behind us. Black SUV, not government plates." Walter looked in the mirror. 3 vehicles, matching speed, staying back, but they're biogen. He asked Park over the radio. "Probably. They can't stop you. Not legally. But they're watching." "For what?" "For you to make a mistake. Give them an open." Grace coughed in Walter's arms, brought up milk tinged pink with blood, internal damage. From the birth, from the compressions, from everything. 50 miles to the reservation. The helicopter stayed overhead. The SUV stayed behind. Hope cried constantly now, sensing her sister's distress. Walter had no free hand to comfort her. 40 miles. Janet's radio crackled. Brennan's voice. "The mother's gone. Just stopped breathing. The cubs, alive. But they need milk. Now, 30 miles. Grace's breathing went shallow again. Quick pants like a dog in summer, her body temperature dropping despite the heating pad. 20 miles. "Roadblock ahead," Janet said. Red and blue lights across the highway. "State police? 3 cars. They can't be," Park said over the radio. "Federal order says someone forgot to tell them." Janet slowed. The convoy bunched up behind them. The helicopter circled lower. A state trooper approached, young, nervous, hand on his weapon. "Ma'am, I need you to turn around." "On whose authority?" Janet asked. "Governor's office." Sarah was already on her phone. "Aunt Harriet, we have a problem." The trooper looked in the truck, saw the cubs. "Are those—" "Dying," Walter said. "They're dying, and you're killing them." Grace proved it by going limp again. No breathing, no movement. Walter didn't think. Pushed past Janet, out of the truck, onto the highway. Started compressions right there on the warm asphalt, breathed into Grace's tiny nose. 1 breath, 2, 3. The news crews were out of their vans, filming. The helicopter practically on top of them. Wind from rotors whipping dust. "Sir, you need to move," the trooper said. Walter didn't move, didn't stop. Breath, 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 compressions. Sarah waddled over, phone out, Judge Cole on speaker. "Officer, this is Judge Harriet Cole. 3rd District. You're interfering with a court order." "Ma'am, I have my own orders." "From whom specifically?" The trooper hesitated. "My captain said—" "Your captain's about to be held in contempt. Move your vehicles. Now." The trooper looked at his partners, at the cameras, at the old man on the highway trying to save a white lion cub. Grace gasped. Tiny sound, but real. Walter stood, legs shaking, climbed back in Janet's truck. The troopers moved their cars, slow, reluctant. But they moved. 10 miles to the reservation. "Border ahead," Janet said. "Once we cross, we're on sovereign land." 5 miles. The black SUVs accelerated, pulled alongside, windows down. Men with cameras recording everything. "Evidence, Dorsasa," Park said over radio. "They're gathering evidence for a lawsuit." 2 miles, a sign ahead. White Mountain Apache Reservation. 1 mile. Grace's eye opened, looked at Walter, blinked once, slow. The convoy crossed the border, all 22 vehicles, carrying 16 lions, 8 cubs, and more hope than Walter had felt in 3 years. The helicopter peeled off. The black SUV stopped at the border, couldn't follow, not onto sovereign land. Janet's clinic appeared ahead. Real buildings, real medical equipment, real chance. That's when Sarah's voice came over the radio, tight with pain. "Dad, my water just broke." Janet's truck skidded to a stop outside the clinic. Walter heard Sarah's rental car door slam behind them. "Get the cubs inside," Janet ordered. "I'll check your daughter." Walter's legs barely held as he climbed out. Grace lay still against his chest, only the faintest rise and fall showing life. Hope cried in his other arm, the sound weaker than an hour ago. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and dog food. Cages lined one wall, mostly empty. A surgery table in the center, steel top scratched from years of use. Here, a young Apache woman, maybe 20, took Hope. I'm Lisa, Janet's assistant. Walter laid Grace on the examination table. Her white fur was matted, stained pink where she'd coughed up blood. Under the bright overhead light, she looked smaller. A handful of bones and fur that somehow kept breathing. Sarah's voice from outside. I can walk. No, you can't. Janet's voice, firm. Lisa, call the tribal hospital. Tell them we're coming. Sarah appeared in the doorway, Janet supporting her. Fluid had soaked through her dress, leaving a dark trail. Dad, go, Walter said. We've got this. The cubs need you. You need a hospital. This baby's not waiting. Janet's face was serious. 35 weeks. 36 tomorrow. Close enough. Lisa, bring my truck around. Sarah grabbed Walter's hand. Her palm was slick with sweat. Don't let them die. Go. Janet helped Sarah outside. Through the window, Walter watched them drive off, red dust kicking up behind the truck. Grace convulsed on the table. Once, twice, her mouth opened wide, no sound coming out. She's seizing, Chen said from the doorway. He'd appeared without Walter noticing, his shirt still covered in the dead lioness's blood. What do I do? Turn her on her side. Keep her airway clear. Walter's hands shook as he positioned Grace. She was so light, like holding air. The convoy vehicles pulled up outside. Doors slamming. Voices. Brennan appeared with a cardboard box, the two cubs from the dead lioness, mewing constantly. They need milk, he said. Janet's gone. Sarah's in labor. I know. Heard it on the radio. Brennan set the box on the counter. There are 3 more lionesses in the trucks. 2 have cubs. All need help. Through the window, Walter could see people unloading. Ranchers he recognized from town, church folks, even some he'd argued with at the town meeting about the lions. All here, all helping. Agent Park entered, phone in hand. The reservation sending their medical staff. 20 minutes out. These cubs don't have 20 minutes. Grace's seizure stopped. She lay still, too still. Walter put his ear to her chest. Heartbeat there, but wrong. Too fast, like rain on a tin roof. Lisa returned, grabbed supplies from a cabinet. Janet called. She said to give subcutaneous fluids, under the skin. She showed Walter how. Tiny needle, careful dose, every 30 minutes for the white one. Her name's Grace. Grace, then. Lisa prepared formula. Mixing powder with water. This isn't as good as mother's milk, but it's something. Walter tried to feed Grace with a syringe. She wouldn't swallow. The formula dribbled out the side of her mouth. She's shutting down, Chen said. No. Walter. I said no. The other cubs were crying now, 5 of them total, all hungry, all orphaned. The sound filled the small clinic. Hayes appeared. The medical team's here. 3 Apache veterinarians entered, immediately taking charge. They moved Grace to a heating unit, inserted an IV line thin as thread into her foreleg. One of them, an older man with glasses, listened to her chest. Pneumonia setting in, he said, from the aspiration during birth. Can you treat it? We'll try, but she's very weak. They worked on all the cubs, efficient and gentle, feeding tubes for the weakest, bottles for the stronger ones. Within minutes, the crying quieted to occasional whimpers. Walter's phone rang. Janet, your daughter's in active labor, Kirk, asking for you. The cubs are in good hands. She needs her father. Walter looked at Grace, tiny in the incubator, machines keeping her alive. Go, Igor, the veterinarian with glasses said. We'll watch her. The tribal hospital was 12 miles away. Park drove. Walter in the back seat watching the reservation pass by. Modest houses, horses in paddocks, children playing despite the heat. What happens now? Walter asked. With the lions, complicated. The reservations claiming them under religious freedom. Sacred animals used in ceremony. They're African lions. Judge won't care. It'll take years to sort out. Meanwhile, they're safe. The hospital was small, built in the 70s from the look of it. Sarah's room was at the end of the hall. Walter could hear her before he saw her breathing hard through contractions. She grabbed his hand when he entered. The cubs, alive, all of them. Don't lie to me. Alive. Getting treatment. Another contraction. Sarah squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt. The monitor showed the baby's heartbeat, steady and strong. 4 hours of labor. Walter stayed, holding Sarah's hand, talking about nothing, about Helen's garden, about the goat kids they'd raised, about the time Sarah was 5 and tried to adopt every stray cat in the county. The baby came at sunset. A boy, 6 pounds, 2 ounces, healthy lungs from the way he screamed. Want to hold him? The nurse asked Walter. His hands were still stained with blood and birth fluid from the lions. I should wash. You're fine. The baby was heavier than grace, lighter than hope. His eyes opened, unfocused, but looking. Sarah had looked the same way 35 years ago. Got a name? The nurse asked Sarah. Sarah looked at Walter. Marcus, after Mr. Webb, and Walter for the middle name. Sarah, he saved those lions. Dad bought them back, died trying to make it right. Walter's phone buzzed. Text from Lisa. Grace is responding, breathing on her own. He showed Sarah. She started crying, hormones and exhaustion and relief all at once. Mom would have loved this, she said. Your mother would have said, we're all fools. That too. Through the window, stars were coming out. First ones Walter had really looked at since Helen died. On the reservation, with less light pollution, they seemed closer. His phone rang. Janet, how's your daughter? Good. Boy, healthy. Good. You should know. The news coverage has gone global. Donations pouring in, enough to build proper facilities. For how long? Permanently. The tribal councils approved it. The Helen Morrison Wildlife Sanctuary. Walter's throat closed. Janet, wasn't my idea. The council elder suggested it. Said anyone who'd kneel in highway dirt to save a dying cub deserved that honor. Through the phone, Walter could hear cubs crying. Not desperate now, just hungry, normal. Grace, he asked. Fighting like her namesake, both of them. And Sarah reached for the phone. Walter passed it over, watched her talk to Janet about medical details he didn't follow. The baby Marcus slept against her chest, making small sounds with each breath. Brennan appeared in the doorway, hat in hand. Wanted you to know. We got all 16 lions settled. The 3 pregnant females are in the surgical suite. Others are stable. The cubs, being bottle-fed by half the county. Folks drove in from Prescott, Phoenix, even that young fella with a rifle, Bobby. He's been feeding the golden cub for 2 hours straight. Walter thought about Webb, dying alone in the dirt, about Grace, the lioness, teeth pulled, trying to give birth, about Helen in her hospital bed, getting smaller each day. Everything died. That was the truth of it. But sometimes, not everything. Mr. Morrison. A nurse stood in the doorway. There's someone asking for you. In the children's ward. Walter followed her down the hall. In a small room, Amy Brennan, Tom's niece. The one whose mother was killed by the tiger. She sat beside a crib where Grace lay in a nest of blankets, V still attached but eyes open. Uncle Tom brought me, Amy said. She was maybe 10 and 11. same age as Webb's daughter when she died. He said it was time. Time for what? To stop being scared. She reached through the crib bars, one finger touching Grace's paw. The cub didn't pull away. She's soft, Amy said. Yeah. Is she going to live? Walter looked at Grace, still too thin, too pale under the white fur, but breathing steady now, eye tracking movement. I think so. Amy nodded. Good. They sat quietly, watching Grace breathe. Down the hall, baby Marcus cried healthy. Normal newborn crying. Outside, people were still arriving, trucks and cars filling the parking lot. Walter's phone lit up with messages, offers to help, donations. A vet in Texas saying she'd drive through the night. A sanctuary in Colorado offering supplies. But Walter didn't read them, not yet. For now, he sat with Amy Brennan and a dying cub that had decided to live in a small room that smelled like disinfectant and hope, while the world outside kept spinning and people kept showing up to help save something that yesterday nobody thought was worth saving. Grace mewed, tiny sound, but clear, asking for food. Want to feed her? The nurse asked Amy. The girl looked at Walter. He nodded. Okay, Amy said. The nurse showed her how to hold the bottle, how to make sure Grace didn't drink too fast. The cub latched on, paws needing air, eye closing in contentment. Look, Amy whispered. She trusts me. Yeah, Walter said. She does. Through the window, the stars kept shining. Tomorrow there would be work. Building enclosures, feeding schedules, paperwork, fighting Biogen's lawyers, teaching traumatized lions they were safe now. But tonight, Grace was drinking. Amy wasn't afraid. Sarah had a healthy son. 15 other lions were sleeping in clean cages for the first time in years. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. It was Grace. 6 months later, I sit on Helen's porch watching Grace chase grasshoppers in the evening light. She's strong now, ready for the sanctuary in Colorado next month. Sarah brings little Marcus out most evenings. Tom Brennan brings his niece Amy. She's the one who named the other cubs. Chen's arthritis somehow improves when he's working with the lions. Even Agent Park stops by, off duty. Brings formula he pays for himself. We saved 43 lions total, lost 7. Each loss cut deep. But here's what I learned when folks stop arguing about what's legal and start asking what's right. Miracles happen. Helen knew that. Now I do too. Disclaimer. This is a work of fiction inspired by wildlife rescue stories, created solely for entertainment purposes. This story does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior toward animals or humans. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Wildlife rescue should only be performed by trained, licensed professionals. The story emphasizes compassion and community while respecting legal wildlife protection protocols.